Welcome. Today we're going to take a look at historical fiction. Our goals for today are to look at what is historical fiction, how can historical fiction be used by a reader, and in what ways is historical fiction a learning tool. Let's take a look at what historical fiction is. The term historical fiction refers to a type of literature. It is fictional in that it has characters and a setting and a plot and all of those regular things that you would find in any other kind of narrative in a short story or a novel. But it's based upon real time periods in history and real places. It may even include real people, although they may be slightly fictionalized within the story. A typical expectation of a reader is that the historical elements of the story are true and not fiction. Here are some examples of historical fiction. You may have heard of some of these books, you may have read some of these books. There are hundreds and hundreds of different examples of historical fiction. It's a very popular style of writing in both short stories, drama, and most especially novels. So how can we use historical fiction? We being the readers. We can use it for entertainment, reading it because it's fun and we find things that we really like in it. We can use it as a source of information gathering, say that you are particularly interested in a specific time period of history. You may read a lot of historical fiction on that time period to learn about it. Or we may read it as a way to connect to a particular time period. Say that there is a time period that you particularly love and you want to connect to a variety of different aspects of that time period. To do that, you may seek out a variety of different pieces of historical fiction so that you can delve more deeply into that time. How can we use historical fiction to learn? One of the things that we need to do is to be able to separate the fact from the fiction. Historical fiction will include both fact and fiction, and you need to be able to tell what is what. Another thing that you can do is to really connect with the characters. Typically, the characters are true people, although in some historical fiction stories, such as Johnny Tremain, many of the characters are true people, and some of the characters are not true people. So you need to be able to differentiate and tell what is what. Also, if you can identify the setting, being the time and place when the story is taking place, that will give you a lot more information and allow you to connect more closely with that literature and the time period. You need to be able to pull out the factual details, be able to tell what is fact versus what is fiction. Anytime that you have a question when you're reading through historical fiction pieces, be sure to look those up right away. That can help a lot for you not only with your reading process of reading through the historical fiction, but in your historical inquiry of understanding the time period as well. Fact and fiction. What are the differences that we're looking at here? In terms of facts, looking at specifically historical fiction, typically the information that is absolutely true, that is how we define fact. The things that we will typically find as being fact in historical fiction will be things like the setting, people's names, dates, and events. Those things are really hard to change around, so it would make sense in historical fiction for those to be true. The fictional aspects, we would define those as being information that is invented for the purpose of driving the story forward. So it's fictional, it is not necessarily true, it is created. Those things we may find in the characters, in plots, or parts of the plots, such as subplots, in some of the conflicts, and in some of the descriptive details. It's really hard to get inside of the minds of people in historical time periods, so sometimes a novelist will make that part up. Some suggestions for your study. Read to enjoy the story. Historical fiction is a wonderful genre. It's a lot of fun and really enjoyable for people if you can find a particular time period that you really like. For the purpose of learning from those details. Historical fiction is just brimming with lots of wonderful details about people and about time periods. Learn from those things. You'll learn about literature and you'll learn about history at the same time. Make those connections to history. Look up information as you're going along and make sure that you understand what's happening in the time period. It will make the literature make more sense as well as give you a greater understanding of the time. At this point, what you should know and be able to do is to know what historical fiction is, be able to identify historical fiction, and understand the uses of historical fiction and how to take advantage of them. I hope this information has been helpful to you. Good luck with your reading.